Hello, chào tất cả các bạn. Chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại với channel của mình. Và hôm nay các bạn hãy cùng mình tiếp tục với series đọc truyện Peter Pan cùng mình. Và đây sẽ là phần số 22. Ok, và chúng ta vừa mới kết thúc chapter 7 chương 7. Thì bây giờ chúng ta sẽ bắt đầu chuyển sang chương 8, chapter 8, The Mermaid's Legend. Okay. If you shut your eyes and are lucky one, you may see at times a shapeless pool of lovely pale colors suspended in the darkness. Then if you squeeze your eyes tighter, the pool begins to take shape, and the colors become so vivid that with another squeeze, they must go on fire. But just before they go on fire, you see the legend. This is the nearest you ever get to it on the mainland. Just one heavenly moment. If there could be two moments, you might see the south and hear the mermaids singing. The children often spend long summer days on these lagoons, swimming or floating most of the time, playing the mermaid games in the water and so forth. You must not think from this that the mermaid were on friendly terms with them. On the contrary, it was among Wendy's lasting regrets that all the time she was on the island she never had a civil word from one of them. When she stole softly to the edge of the lagoon, she might see them by the score, especially the mariners' rock, where they loved to bask, combining out their hair in a lazy way that quite irritated her. Or she might even swim on tiptoe at his wall to within a jar of them. But then they saw her and dived, probably splashing her with her tails, not by accident, but intentionally. They treated all the boys in the same way. Except, of course, Peter, who chatted with them on Mariner Rock by the hour and sat on their tails when they got cheeky. He kept winning one of their comps. The most haunting time at which to see them is at the turn of the moon, when they utter strange wailing cries. But the lagoon is dangerous for mortals then, and until the evening of which we have now to tell, when he had never seen the lagoon by moonlight, less from fear, for of course Peter would have accompanied her, and because she had strict rules about everyone being in bed by 7, she was often at the lagoon. However, on Sundays after rain and the mermaids come up in extraordinary numbers to play with their bubbles, the bubbles of many colors made in rainbow water, and they treat at bones, hitting them gaily from one to another with their tails and trying to keep them in the rainbow till they burst. The girls are at each end of the rainbow, and the keepers only are allowed to use their hands. Sometimes a dozen of these games will be going on in the lake in the time, but it is quite a pretty sight. But the moment the children tried to join in, they had to play by themselves, for the myth immediately disappeared. Nevertheless, we have proof that they secretly watched their interlopers and were not above taking an idea from them, for John introduced a new way of hitting the bubble with the head instead of the hand, and the mermaids adopt it. It is the one mark that John has left on the Neverland. It must also have been rather pretty to see the children resting on the rock for half an hour after being midday meal. When he insisted on their doing this, and it had to be real rest, even though the meal was make-believe. So they lay there in the sun and their bodies listened in it. Why? She sat beside them and looked important. Randy insists on their doing this, but it has to be a real rest, even though the meal was make-believe. So they lay there in the sun and their bodies glistened to an as born. Okay, it was one such day, and they were all the mariners' rock. The rock was not much larger than the red bed, but of course they all knew how not to take up much room, and they were dozing, or at least lying with their eyes shut and pinching occasionally when they thought when he was not looking. She was very busy stitching. Stitchy, where is it? While she teach a change came to the lagoon, little silvers ran over it, and the sun went away, and shadows stole across the water, turning it cold when it could no longer see to thread her needle. And when she looked up, the lagoon that had always hitherto been such a laughing place seemed formidable and unfriendly. It was not, she knew, that night had come, but something as dark as night had come, and worse than that. It had not come, but it had sent that silver through the sea to say that it was coming. What was it? The crowd deepened her on the stories she had been told of Marin's Rock, so called because even captains put sailors on it and leave them there to drown. They drown the tide size, for then it is submerged. Of course, she would have roused the children at once, not merely because of the unknown that was stalking toward them, but because it was no longer good for them to sleep on a rock grown chilly. But she was a young mother and she did not know this. She thought, you simply must stick to your rule, because about half an hour after the midday meal, so though fear was upon her, she launched to her male voices. She would not waken them. Even when she heard the sound of the muffled oaths, though her heart was in her mouth, she did not waken them. She stood over them to let them have their sleep out. Was it's not brave Wendy. It was well for the boys then that there were one among them who could sniff danger even in his sleep. Peter sprang erect as wide awake and at once as a dog, and with one warning cry he roused the others. He stood motionless, and one hand to his ear. "Paris!" he cried. The other came closer to him. A stranger was lying about his face, and when he saw it and shuddered.